replace that shit with some lethal. Maul, remember the name, it's been a long. Got niggas shook to death from the first fucking song.
Hello, and welcome back to yet another mock draft. NFL week, was it 14, 15 just concluded. Lot of things have changed since my last mock draft video. I feel like a lot of my picks I make in this video are going to be in conflict with the ones I've been making recently, but starting to do some more research on the prospects, and I think the future of certain teams is starting to be a little bit more clear here. So let's get right into it with some clearer vision on what we think for some of these teams. One round this time, not letting the computer make the picks. That shit was wild last time, but let's get right into it, man. With the Bears, I'm pretty confident at this point. Well, let me say this. At this point, I am 100% sure that if I was the Bears front office, would move forward with Justin Fields. I think he's shown you more than enough. I know in the game against the Browns, on the stats, it says he threw one touchdown, two picks. Um, he had two touchdowns dropped in that game. Either one would have won the game. One was a 50-yard bomb to Robert Tonyan, wide open, literally just dropped it. And Darnell Mooney had the ball on a Hail Mary. Let me try and show you something. This was the ball like this. Ball lands on his chest like this, and he doesn't catch the ball somehow. So, at a certain point, Fields can't do it all. He needs more weapons. I think loading up on draft picks would be a good idea. The question now becomes who trades for the number one pick? I think in the past I've done the Raiders. I think I've done the Falcons. And this one, I'm going to do the Raiders again. I think they're pretty desperate for a QB of their choice. It just makes the most sense for me. Two firsts and 2 seconds, we'll say, to move up 11 spots to get the number. Let's say they get a third back in return next year. Force the trade, start the draft. Raiders take Caleb Williams. Box office, by the very definition, does everything well, a lot of things great, escaping the pocket, extending plays, amazing arm, just an amazing arm talent, accuracy, throw power, placing the ball exactly where it needs to go, rarely ever making mistakes. I mean, the only issue I would say with Caleb is that he tries to extend the play maybe when he doesn't necessarily need to. I think Caleb could benefit from sitting in the pocket a little bit more. Now, I admit his offensive line at USC wasn't optimal. He kind of had to scramble for his life at times, but I think in the NFL, Caleb is going to have to adjust to not always being able to just escape the pocket and extend the play for 2 and 3 seconds. That's going to be a tough reality check for him, but I think Caleb to the Raiders would be a pretty awesome storyline, to be honest. Patriots, it's going to be a boring pick. As long as they're in the top two, they're going to draft whatever quarterback's available to them. Bill is confirmed now to be gone, which means I'm almost positive. I'm 99.9% sure Mac Jones is gone. They're going to have a new coach moving in a new direction, and they need a quarterback to be a part of that. I think Drake May is a first overall caliber QB. I think CJ Stroud last year, just because he's not the first pick doesn't mean he's not capable. Doesn't mean he's not he's not talented enough. Drake May is incredibly young, and he's already shown so much in just 2 years of playing college football. I mean, he's dominated at times. I think he has mobility that is sneaky, certainly. I know you say that a lot about, white quarterbacks, but he really is an athletic guy. I think Daniel Jones, for a comparison, as far as just raw athleticism there, I think he actually do a lot with his legs in the NFL. And of course, he has an awesome arm. Sits in the pocket more than Caleb, I think, will be an easier adjustment to the NFL. I think day one. Hopefully, the Patriots can get some weapons to make that transition a little easier for Drake May, because if he's throwing to Devontae Parker next year, I mean, God bless him, bless his heart. Cardinals at 3, another boring pick. It's going to continue to be Marvin Harrison Jr. Um, what does Marv do well? Besides having a freakish blend of size, speed, and fluidity in his game, I think he's the best route runner in the entire class by a mile. I won't say by a mile. No, I will say by a mile. He also has a difficult catch ability. His body control in the air cannot be taught. I don't know if he was born with it or if having a Hall of Fame wide receiver as a dad helped with that, but the adjustments he makes, he makes bad passes, he turns those into catches, and he turns those catches into big plays once he gets the ball in his hands. He is the perfect wide receiver prospect. If you made a wide receiver in a lab, it probably looked like Marvin Harrison Jr. And I think if there weren't such good QBs in this class, he'd be the number one pick pretty easily. Commanders at 4. In the past, it's been Brock Bowers. Maybe even could be quarterback. I think Sam Howell got benched last week. Maybe he got hurt or something. I don't know exactly what happened there. I didn't watch the game, but a lot going wrong in Washington. Coach almost certainly will be fired. But I think getting a franchise offensive tackle will solve some of those problems. Olu Fashanu probably would have been a top 10 pick last year if he decided to declare, came back for another year. Bad decision. Penn State sucked. But, you know, you could say it panned out because I think he's almost certainly is going to be a top 6, if not a top 5 pick. Here I have him going to the Commanders. You can go a lot of places if you're the Commanders. You really need help everywhere, to be honest. But I think improving that offensive line since he lost Trent Williams, it has not been the same. Obviously, they need a future at that tackle position, and Olufashanu would be that guy immediately. Bears at 5. By trading that first overall pick, you take yourself out of the Marvin Harrison sweepstakes. Why not get the second best option? Malik Neighbors should have won the Blitnikoff. I'll say it. I think he was the best receiver in college football this year. How does he do it? Well, run after catch, he's incredible, which makes a lot of sense for the Bears since they love to throw a lot of wide receiver screens, short passes. They don't believe in Fields yet to really stretch it deep, even though he can. But if they want to stretch it deep, Malik Neighbors is more than capable of that. He was one of, if not the best deep threats in all of college football this year. Taking the top off defenses, he has great long speed, long strider. He has good hands. I think he can work all 3 areas of the field well. He has good size as well. He's just, he's a top 10 prospect easily. And kind of weird, preseason it was a real discussion. I didn't know who the best receiver in the SEC was. A lot of people were saying it was Malik Neighbors. He had a good season the year before, but to just break out the way he did this season, a lot of that obviously due to Jaden Daniels, but man, Malik Neighbors was just an absolute monster this season and more than capable of being a top 10 pick in my eyes. Giants at 6, it just has to be offensive tackle. Evan Neal has been a bust up to this point, 2 years in, and busts hurt your team. I mean, especially when they're playing offensive tackle for you. Their whole offensive line has been a tragedy. So, you got to start with the outside. Get Joe Alt in there playing opposite of Andrew Thomas and try and get whoever's playing quarter. I think Tommy DeVito just got sacked 7 times against the Saints. So, I mean, it doesn't matter who's playing quarterback. If you're getting sacked that often, nobody's going to succeed, and they need to try desperately to get a solution in at offensive tackle. Joe Alt, that's a great solution. He's a surefire prospect. I know you shouldn't say that, but he has all the measurables. He has all the college tape, all the experience. If I had to bet, I've said it before, if I had to bet on somebody who's still be in the NFL 10 years from now, it'd be Joe Alt. So that's my pick for the Giants at 6. Jets at 7, you kind of got screwed here. You lost the top 2 tackles, but you still need tackle more than any other position. I'd be toying with the idea of Brock Bowers here, maybe even Jaden Daniels. But you still have Aaron Rodgers on the team. Is Robert Saleh going to be the coach? That's a great question, but I feel like you just still have to go tackle, even if you may have to reach a little bit. I think you certainly would have to reach a little bit here at number 7. The question is, who is it? I've said it before. I believe Amarius Mims is going to return to Georgia, so I'm not going to be drafting him in this situation. Same as I'm not going to be drafting Quinn Ewers or Shadur Sanders or people like that I think are going to return. In my eyes, it's between Fuaga and J.C. Latham, the 2 guys who I think have the highest upside as a tackle in the NFL, and I'm going to go J.C. Latham. I think he has all of the measurables as well as the combination. I think he was born like 5 days after me, so he's a very young guy, 20 years old. And the upside for him is incredible, but he already has the measurables. I'm talking size, height, weight, arm length, all of that. I think he's a day 1 right tackle for you with a high possibility of making the transition over the left side. But worst case scenario, he's a franchise right tackle for you. I won't say worst case scenario, he could not pan out, but certainly I think J.C. Latham, if you need a right tackle, Jets certainly need an offensive tackle before they even consider doing anything else. J.C. Latham, it's a bit of a reach at number 7, but you get your guy. Chargers at 8, Brock Bowers. Boring pick, but obvious pick. Brock Bowers, you don't really talk about tight ends as the guys who stretch the field and make explosive plays. Brock Bowers is that guy. Brock Bowers is the best tight end since Kyle Pitts. Might even be better than Kyle Pitts as a no, he is better than Kyle Pitts as a prospect because he is a physical blocker and he gets it done. Even when he's not catching passes, Brock Bowers impacts the game with his blocking ability. But he's usually going to be catching passes because he's always open downfield and it's an absolute mismatch no matter who you put on him. He is a matchup nightmare for defenses, and the idea of him with Herbert, very, very scary. I think we got a new Keenan Allen type guy in Los Angeles if Brock Bowers were to go to the Chargers. Titans at 9 has to be tackle. Will Levis just got killed against the Texans. He was slaughtered because he had no protection. If Will Levis is the guy, which I'm willing to believe at this point, you need to protect him. I know wide receivers in need. D Hop's probably going to be gone. Derrick Henry's probably going to be gone. Probably a new head coach in there, but you got to protect Will Levis if he's the guy. So taking a look at the tackles, I think Fuag is the guy. He's a big nasty guy, huge human. I think he's like 6'6", 6'7", something like that. A mauler in the run game. I've said that before. I think he's a day one right tackle. I think he has upside as a pass protector. Certainly, he uses power extremely well. I think he's going to be invited to the Senior Bowl. I think he already has. So those reps are going to be very. I think he's a guy who really stands to gain the most at the Senior Bowl. If he can silence some of the critique about his pass blocking ability, I think he's damn near a surefire top 10 pick. Because you look at how many teams in this top 10 need tackle. You got the Titans, the Jets, the Giants, and the Commanders. And you can throw in the goddamn Cardinals and the Patriots. Well, you can throw in the Patriots as well there, and the goddamn Bears if you want. So many teams could use tackle that if Fuaga has a really good Senior Bowl, he's almost a lock for the top 10 in my eyes. So keep an eye on that and his performance in those reps. Falcons at 10, it just has to be quarterback, right? I mean, what else could it be? You know, the question is who in this situation. Well, let's take a look. I I'm starting to be a little bit more objective about these prospects. I really like Bo Nix and Michael Penix, but neither of these guys are really perfect prospects. I think Bo Nix, you know, he doesn't have the upside as far as, you know, arm talent. He's an older prospect. I think he's extremely accurate. I love his decision making. He is a mobile quarterback and not just escaping the pocket, extending plays, but actual using his legs to run the ball. He's a very good prospect, but I don't think he's top 10 worthy, maybe even not top 15 worthy. Michael Penix, he's an amazing arm talent, great drop back passer, amazing accuracy, but he has a career of injury concerns and he's not mobile whatsoever because of those injuries. That's where Jane Daniels comes in. He has amazing generational athleticism, glides when he runs the football, and also delivers a very pretty ball downfield. So I think Jaden Daniels, out of those three, is not the most polished passer, but he has a special talent when he runs the football. And he has more than enough weapons if you were to go to Atlanta. Yeah, Kyle Pitts, Drake London, Bijan catching passes out of the backfield, already a good enough defense to make the playoffs. I think Jane Daniels goes in, makes the playoffs year one with the Falcons, and they got their franchise guy, the new Michael Vick question mark. Packers at 11. Let me check right here who I had going to the Packers here. Let me just make sure here. Okay, yeah, I thought it was Nate Wiggins. Okay, Nate Wiggins to the Packers. Cornerback, I think they got a lot of needs. I don't think tackle's in play. The top four are off my board. I don't think wide receiver possibly, I think I think Christian Watson's been a massive disappointment so far. A very young wide receiver core, guys like Dobbs and Jaden Reed have showed a lot of potential this year. I think Jordan Love's playing very well, so I think you address the defense. Nate Wiggins, adding him there, you just traded Rasul Douglas. You now have a hole at cornerback. Add Nate Wiggins to the group of Jair Alexander, Eric Stokes, and I think you got a very good, very young, talented cornerback room. You got Nate Wiggins, shows a lot of effort on defense. A lot of people talk about his size, his wingspan, his speed. All the measurables are there, but I like the grittiness Nate Wiggins plays with. I'm going to find it very hard to not mock him in the top 20 of every draft moving forward. I think he's just solidified himself as a top tier cornerback prospect. Bears at 12 here. We gave them wide receiver with the first pick. Who do I give them here at 12? I'm starting to forget this shit already. Pardon me. We give him Kool-Aid. I like that. Okay. So we address the skill positions on both sides of the football. Kool-Aid to the Bears. He has all the measurables. Like literally a lot of things I said about Nate Wiggins you can say about Kool-Aid. Similar to unsimilar to Ringo last year. Preseason, both of these guys were top 10 projected picks, but Ringo had a pretty bad final season at Georgia and kind of tanked his draft stock. Kool-Aid, on the other hand, has played up to the standard and the expectations that people have had of him at Alabama. Saints at 13. A lot of ways you can go here, honestly, but I think if you're the Saints, the offense has been struggling, yes, but that defense is aging, and I mean aging. Demario Davis, Tyrann Mathieu, Cam Jordan, you need to get younger. They have missed on so many pass rush prospects, man. Like it's a fucking list. Fucking Marcus Davenport. Uh, I forgot the guy's name as we're talking about this. He's like Peyton Turner was a guy, another first round they draft. They just can't get it right in terms of drafting Cam Jordan's eventual replacements and why he's been playing there for 15 years. So they're going to take a pass rusher, and I believe, if I'm correct, yeah, it's going to be Dallas Turner. I think Dallas Turner has the highest upside as a complete pass rusher, or just defense, I just say edge rusher, in the entire draft class. I mean, he's very young, and he's already a dominant. He's a young guy, and he's put together multiple dominant seasons at Alabama already. Um, I think his raw athleticism is his greatest strength. I think it allows him to impact the game in the run defense, not just getting after the quarterback. I think that's a can't go wrong pick there if the Saints at 13. Broncos at 14. So this one, I've been giving them receiver. I can't believe I forgot the entire mock draft as I do this shit. I've been giving them receiver this whole time. That's not going to change. I think Rome Odunze has absolutely solidified himself. I think he's been having good game after good game after good game. Now we get to see what he does in the college football playoff. He has solidified himself as a top 20 pick. That's just a lock. Like I have no doubt this guy is going in the top 20. Um, I think he is not the route runner that Marvin Harrison, that Malik Neighbors are, but Romo Dunze is possibly the most dangerous deep threat I've seen because if you throw a jump ball on that left side to Romo Dunze, he's coming down with it. I can't even I'm gonna put together a compilation at the end of this year of Romo Dunze jump balls. And it's gonna be 3 or 4 minutes long because it's so many plays he makes on the other team's best corner. Like it's every time, and that's a big part of that is Michael Penix putting the ball where it needs to go. But Romo Dunze uses his size because he's a big guy. He's like 6'4", size and speed because he also just takes the top off the defense a lot and he's wide open downfield. But like, stick him on that left boundary in the NFL and watch the fireworks because this guy makes so many plays just through sheer out muscling defenders and also using his speed. So he's just a freak of nature. Seahawks at 15. I look at a lot of guys on the board right now. Liatu Latu, Jerzon Newton, Chop Robinson. If you want to improve the secondary, Cooper DeJean, Cam Kitchens. But honestly, man, with the quarterback situation we've had this year, I just think we have to address it. Even if Geno still plays next year, which he very much could. I mean, we signed him to a 3-year extension. He has another year at least left on that contract. So he could play next year. But if we decide to go in a different direction, why not keep Michael Penix in Seattle? I think the concerns with Michael Penix are fair, right? He's an older prospect. He has a long, long list of injury concerns. I mean, I think he had like 4 straight season-ending injuries at Indiana. This is like his 6th season of college football, but Michael Penix is special in terms of dropping back and putting the ball with pinpoint accuracy anywhere on the field. Now he has a weird release as a lefty. I don't know if he'll have to adjust it going into the NFL, but quite frankly, I think he does well enough right now in college. I mean, keeping him in Seattle, I think, is just it's the storyline's too good. And as a Seahawks fan, this is just who I want. I mean, I think I'm qualified as a fan of this team to make the best decision moving forward for the franchise. If I was in this position, I think Michael Penix is the guy. I mean, we don't need a superhero at quarterback for the Seahawks. We have a good enough roster. We have great weapons, good enough defense, good old young, improving O line. I think getting a quarterback making no money on a rookie contract in there is the missing piece right now. So that I think is the best pick we could make at 15 for the Seahawks. Steelers at 16. A lot of thought going. A lot of thought going to this one. Let me. Bro, a lot of good defensive linemen on the board right now. God damn. Graham Barton. Okay. So the thought process here is that I've been giving them DB a lot, but this offense has been so consistently terrible that I think you have to go to the O line, which is what you did last year. You took Broderick Jones last year, and he's been playing right tackle for them. A good run blocker so far this season, but you need you need to just keep improving this offensive line because it's not good enough. It's clearly not good enough. You're not opening up holes for Najee Harris and and Jalen Warren enough, and you're not giving whoever's at quarterback enough time to throw two lackluster weapons. I'll acknowledge that much, but it's all wrong right now with the Steelers offense, and it's going to take several drafts of improving this offensive line first and foremost, and then trying to figure out who the quarterback's going to be, and it's some dark days ahead of the Steelers, if I'm being honest with you. I'm not sure if Mike Tomlin's going to survive these dark days, but it has to start with building a foundation on the offensive line. I think Graham Barton could contribute a lot to that. Probably a guard in the NFL due to short arms, similar to Peter Skoronski. But if he's a guard in the NFL, he'll be a damn good guard, I can tell you that. And potentially moving out to right tackle if Broderick Jones eventually moves out to left tackle. If that's the case, you got two good young tackles making no money on rookie contracts. So that's the best case scenario here for the Steelers. Cardinals at 17. I gave them Marvin Harrison Jr. with the first pick. And with this pick, I feel like you got to take the best defensive player on the board. Defensive head coach Jonathan Gannon should be licking his chops at the opportunity to coach Liatu Latu. I give the same rundown every time Liatu Latu, so I'm not going to do it again. Medical red shirt, older prospect, but the best pass rusher in the draft. Just talking about pure talent right now. He is a dominant college football player with his use of counter moves, can use speed and power. Um, Dominant in both the pass and run defense. Yeah, it's just a perfect prospect, except with the injury concerns. That's really it. But if I'm the Cardinals, I'm taking that risk because the upside is you get a generational prospect. So at 17, it's amazing value. I've had him going in the top 4 in a couple of these mock drafts. So I'm acknowledging the scenario that he could fall because that is possible. But man, if you got Liatu Latu at 17, if you walk away with Liatu Latu and Marvin Harrison Jr., I would be sweating as a Seahawks fan of the Cardinals moving forward. Bills at 18. This is going to be a receiver. It's going to be Keon Coleman. I don't think that the hell is Keon Coleman? I do not think that the Bills offense has been explosive enough given the talent they have. So I think you need to make a change. I think you need a new outside receiver to pair along Stephon Diggs, take some pressure off of him, and take the top off a couple of defenses because that's what Keon Coleman can do. He's also going to be a punt and kick returner for you immediately, which is good value to get in the draft. But Keon Coleman, with his size, I mean, he was the talk of college football the first 2 or 3 weeks of the season, but then Florida State stopped giving him the ball for some reason. Obviously, after the Jordan Travis injury, we didn't get to see competent quarterback play to get him the ball in the first place. So just he's a project. His best football is ahead of him, in my opinion, which is tough to project for a receiver, especially. But I think giving him to Josh Allen with his size and speed and ability to win deep and ability to win over defenders, it's going to be a fun time. If wherever he goes, honestly, I'm just excited to see it because he has all the measurables you could ever ask for. It's just about going to a situation who knows how to develop him and uses him properly. Because if that happens, this guy could be an all pro in the future. He's just that good. Buccaneers at 19. I think, you have a bad you have a very bad defense. How do you improve it? You can't stop the pass. So how do you improve that? You get better pass rushers to get after the quarterback, or do you get better DBs to defend wide receivers? It's a it's a good question. Me personally, though, I'm going with Chop Robinson out of Penn State, possibly the best speed rusher in the entire class. He's a bit of a raw prospect because of that, because he's so heavily reliant on his speed. He may be just a third down pass rusher or obviously passing situation player day one, but hey, learning from guys like Shaquille Barrett, I think would not hurt him whatsoever. I think he could really get after the quarterback day one, and hopefully, if the Buccaneers could develop into that three down lineman that they're looking for. But Chop Robinson has a special twitch in his ability to get after the quarterback. He will be a top 20 pick without a shadow of a doubt. So it's about developing him similar to Keon Coleman. Vikings at 20, it just has to be quarterback. Obviously, Josh Dobbs not the guy. Jaron Hall hasn't even got a chance really yet. I don't think they like what they have there. Kirk Cousins obviously season into injury. No. This situation now with the Vikings QBs has gotten him a lot more leverage in terms of them possibly going back into that, exploring the option of just bringing back Kirk. But I think it's just a perfect situation to draft a QB. And if Bo Nix falls to you at 20, Bo Nix to the Vikings is just a perfect fit. They don't need a quarterback, right, to run out of the pocket and extend plays and do all this shit, right? They need a quarterback to learn their offense and put the ball in the hands of Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and TJ Hawkinson when they're open, because they're open a lot. And they don't need a perfect pass every time to come down with the ball. I think Bo Nix, if he pans out well, is Kirk Cousins, a guy that doesn't wow you with his athleticism or his arm strength, but hangs in the pocket and makes all the right throws. That's what you're looking for if you draft Bo Nix, and I think he's going to deliver on that if he goes to a good situation like Minnesota. So I that's just a perfect fit in my opinion, because it plays into his strengths and it answers a day one need of the Vikings of just getting a young, not really a young, he's like 25, 26, but getting, or 23, 24, I think, but getting a cheap replacement at quarterback so they can give Justin Jefferson this $30 million contract and stuff like that. It's a great fit in my opinion. Rams at 21, they need everything. I think getting a pass rusher in there is crucial, but also getting a DB I think is slightly more important there. So let's take a look here. Who would I give them in this situation? I'm gonna give him Terrion Arnold. He has been shooting up draft boards. This is the highest I've had him going so far. He's just been a monster so far at Alabama. He is the literal prototype at what you want at DBs. 6 foot, 190 to 200 pounds, long arms, 4.4 speed. It's just it's if you look at the average first round pick at cornerback, it looks a lot like Terrion Arnold. But what I like about him that I think separates him is getting after and blowing up run plays. I think he has 6.5 tackles for a loss this season at Alabama. So he plays with a tenacity that, I just like it, man. He's damn near an All-American. He probably should be an All-American this year. He's just played that good. But he's been shooting up draft boards, and I think a team is going to fall in love with him and make him a top 25 pick. And I think the Rams certainly could use that help on the outside. Colts at 22, you know, I'm gonna stick with their theme last year of drafting just athletic freaks, and Cooper DeJean more than fits that mold for them. I know it's kind of funny, like an oxymoron or whatever it's called, of saying athletic freak white cornerback, but I mean, you have to be right. If you're gonna be a white cornerback, you got to have something special about you. And with Cooper DeJean, it has raw athleticism. He's an instant day one kick and punt returner, but I've said it before, it's his versatility. I think this man could play safety if you need him to. I think he could play nickel certainly at a high level, and I think he'd just be a boundary corner. You could put him wherever you want in the secondary, and I think he's going to do a good job. Which is hard to. I mean, if you got a guy that can play fucking boundary corner, nickel, safety, punt, and kick returner, that's pretty damn good value for the 22nd pick, right? So I think the Colts there, it's a great fit, I think, in Indianapolis. Jaguars at 23, I'm gonna have them improving the defensive line, taking Johnny Newton. It's great value, first of all. This guy is possibly a top 12 to 15 talent in the entire draft. Getting him at 23, I think is good value. They got Fadakasi there right now. at their nose tackle currently. I mean, that's replaceable. No disrespect, but Johnny Newton, a little short arms, right? But we're seeing a trend now of defensive tackles winning with speed inside. And I think Johnny Newton is a guy who that shit dies every single time I make a video. What was I saying? I think Johnny Newton is a guy who can get inside and get after the quarterback if you leave him one on one. And if you don't leave him one on one, then he's doing his job, taking up two defenders, creating more one on ones for guys like Josh Allen and Trayvon Walker on the outside. So that would be a massive help to the Jaguars' defensive line if they picked up Johnny Newton at 23. Bengals at 24 here. What do they do? I actually think it should be receiver here. And let me tell you why. I think the Bengals, I think the best option, right, is to just franchise T. Higgins, get him for one more year, let Tyler Boyd walk. And if you do that, you got some good options. You got Andre Yoshivas out of Princeton, I believe. He's made a couple plays this year, was really good in the preseason. You drafted Charlie Jones out of Purdue, who had a really good senior season last year. But I think you need another option at wide receiver if you're the Bengals, and why not give a guy like Brian Thomas a shot? Certainly, Jamar Chase would have a say in that, LSU connection going on. But Brian Thomas has been an absolute monster this season for LSU. I think 15 touchdowns. He wins deep so often. It's kind of ridiculous. You know, he has great speed, good hands, and good body control. He makes a lot of, difficult catches in the end zone. Like it's a lot of them are, he just wins deep, gets wide open, but a lot of passes it's him, a defender, and the boundary out of bounds, and he ends up scoring that touchdown. So I think it's a great weapon for Joe Burrow. Probably the eventual T. Higgins replacement in this situation, but an instant day one starter. And I think the Bengals wide receiver is increasingly becoming a massive need for them. Chiefs, it has to be wide receiver. I'm not listening to anybody who does not give the Chiefs a wide receiver in a mock draft. Who is it? I think in this situation, I think Emeka Egbuka is the perfect fit for the Chiefs. Preseason top 10 pick. He dealt with a lot of injuries, and when he was out there, it just wasn't that impactful for the Buckeyes this year. So I think he's going to slip in the draft. I don't see him going in the top 20, but I think the Chiefs at 25, I think him and Rashee Rice would just fit in perfectly with what the Chiefs want to do. I mean, if you look at their offense now, it's not a lot of deep shots anymore. It's a lot of working the intermediate. It's a lot of Mahomes getting out of the pocket and extending plays so receivers can get open over the middle. It's in Emeka, he's that guy. He's not really much of a deep threat. He works the short and intermediate parts of the field very well, and he gets a lot of separation in tight windows. And I think Mahomes with a target like that to replace fucking Kadarius Toney, it just can't go wrong. You know, Emeka and Rashee Rice moving forward, that's a really good wide receiver duo for the Chiefs. Texans at 26. This has to be DB for me, and I'm gonna go with Kalen King out of Penn State here. Um, he's a guy. I don't think he had the best season at Penn State. I think it was highlighted by Marvin Harrison really just working him in the Ohio State game, which is to be expected, to be honest. I don't think anybody has had a great game against Marvin Harrison. But Kalen King, he doesn't have the prototypical height, speed, wingspan, stuff like that. He's a little below optimal in all of those areas, but I think he makes up for it in his coverage skills. In a team like Texas is just desperate for help in the secondary. So I think Kalen King, it can't go wrong. Put him opposite of Derek Stingley. Let him guard the opposing team's second best receiver, and I think he'll do a very serviceable job. I find it very hard for a guy like Kalen King to be disappointing, especially if he's not asked to be a team's number one boundary corner. I think it's a very good situation for Kalen King going to the Texans at 26. Not a lot of spotlight on him. Derek Stingley being the one, him having a bit of an easier time. So I like the fit really with the Texans at 26. Lions at 27 here. Is this going to be secondary? No, it's not. Jared Verse has fallen way too far. I don't know what. I really have a tough time finding these pass rushing spots in the first round, if I'm being honest with you. I lean receiver. I lean secondary more, even though there's no safeties or linebackers in any of my mock drafts or D tackles besides Johnny Newton. It's such a stacked draft class. Honestly, it's a lot of good guys are going to fall every time. I don't really know how, but Braylon Trice is only gone in the first round of one of my mock drafts, and here's Jared Verse every other fucking unless I make a mental note to draft Jared Verse in the top 20, he just falls every time somehow. It's just these teams from like 18 to 26, I just don't really find the spots for pass rushers. But we got Jared Verse the Lions. It's amazing value. Jared Verse, a freak athlete, getting after the quarterback. He can also make plays in the run game, but a little bit older of a prospect. He was a converted tight end, I believe, from tight end to defensive end. And he's made a great impact at Florida State. Uh, I don't know why, but I just feel like if there was a guy to fall, I feel like it would be Jared Verse. I don't really have an explanation for it, but it's great value for the Lions. I mean, taking pressure off Aiden Hutchinson, getting a guy on the opposite side, that's a great duo. A great duo. It almost gives me chills damn near thinking about Jared Verse and Aiden Hutchinson on opposite sides of each other. You should be jumping for joy if you're a Lions fan getting Jared Verse at 27. Eagles at 28 here. Eagles fans have been begging me to go O-line, and I'm finally going to do it. I see the need, the eventual replacement for Lane Johnson. I'm going to go Troy Fatanu here. I'll be honest, I don't really see him as a NFL left tackle, but they don't need him to be, right? You got Mailata out there. I think Fatanu starts inside, start on my right guard. Hopefully you keep Lane Johnson for another year. Let Fatanu get developed by one of the best offensive line coaches in the NFL, and just slowly but surely, I think Troy Fatanu will be the Eagles' future right tackle if they made that selection. He's a mauler in the run game. He's very physical. Uses that power very well. I mean, he's been good. He's been a great left tackle in college. I just don't think he has the measurables necessarily to be a great NFL tackle. But eventually, let's say a year from now, he makes the move to right tackle from a guard position. I like that. I like that fit for the Eagles. I just think if you want to be a power run team like they want to be, getting a guy like Fatanu out there really helps that, and not to mention, I think he could be, a good pass protector. I think he has that upside with him. So that's good value at 28 for the Eagles. Dolphins at 29, I'm going to go with another tackle here. Uh, these later rounds, later in the round, I think there's a lot of opportunities for offensive line. I think Dolphins is one of those spots here. I'm going to go Jordan Morgan. Um, Another guy who has been shooting up draft boards, really. I just think he has a lot of upside, really. Kind of a physical specimen. You know, he has all the measurables. I think he's shown strengths in both aspects in the pass and run game. But I think if you're the Dolphins, the number one priority, right, has to be protecting Tua. I don't think there's any guys here once Fuaga goes off the board. I think every offensive tackle prospect is kind of in the same boat per se, where they all have to be developed. None of them are going to be ready necessarily to play tackle day one, and I'll expect Jordan Morgan to. Uh, Probably a swing tackle off the bat, but obviously with the potential, you'd hope to be their right tackle moving forward. So we'll see what happens there if they made a tackle selection at 29. Cowboys at 30, I think O-line is certainly in play, but I find it very hard to not give them a receiver here every single time since we have two Texas receivers who should go in the first round. Who do I give them in this situation? I mean, take your pick. Is it A.D. Mitchell or Xavier Worthy? I think in a perfect world, CeeDee Lamb is more of their slot guy, and you want a big physical deep threat outside. Not physical, which is a big body deep threat. I think A.D. Mitchell is certainly that guy. He has long speed, long strides, and he gets open downfield. If you know how to use him, if you got a quarterback like Dak who is not afraid to take shots, I think A.D. Mitchell could really add another layer to the Cowboys offense that they're looking for. Because I mean, outside of CD, you got Brandon Cooks, you got Michael Gallup. I mean, it's not a lot of long-term solutions there. So I think A.D. Mitchell is just such good value. I mean, it's a lot of teams might look at drafting receiver when you're already a good team as a luxury pick, but I don't think it's a luxury pick. I think the Cowboys need an outside receiver to take pressure off of CD, and I think A.D. Mitchell would certainly fit that need nicely. Niners at 31. It's going to be O-line here. Protecting Brock Purdy, obviously number one priority. Need a mauler in the run game. A guy I've seen shooting up draft boards lately, so I'm gonna try and get in on this while I can. Is Tyler Guyton a project player? Certainly, right? Certainly. He is not ready right now, but he has the physical. I think he's like 6'7". Okay, this guy's a physical just specimen, right? So you try and just take what you have there as a starting block of size, speed, athleticism, all that power, and try and mold that. You don't need a lot, right? You don't need a world beater to make the 49ers offense move, but you just need a guy to get in there, get experience, right? Learn his role, learn his position, and you just need another cog in the system really for the 49ers. I think Tyler Guyton with the right guidance could certainly be a tackle for the Niners in the future. Ravens at 32. Is it receiver? Is it corner? I'm going to go corner, and I'm going to switch it up a little. I'm going to give some love to a guy who I've been seeing rising up draft boards lately, and that's Quinyon. I think that's how you say it. Quinyon. Fuck it, special teams. I think it's Quinyon Mitchell out of Toledo, the DB small school, which I love. MAC runner-up to the champions, Toledo. Quinyon Mitchell has 37 passes defended in the last 2 years. I've not been doing this for a long time, but that is the most I've seen over a 2-year stretch. 27 games, 37 passes defended. Now, if you can understand how many times you got to be throwing the ball in your direction to get 37 pass breakups, obviously he's going to give up a good amount of big plays, right? He's an aggressive player. I mean, he plays in the MAC, right? You have to have some tenacity about you to get recognized if you play in a group of 5 school, right? But he's an aggressive player. He's physical in the run game, and he's just aggressive at the point of attack, right? He puts his hands on receivers. He tries to break up every play. He tries to make every play. It gets him beat a lot, but I feel like that's a good fit for the Ravens. They like aggressive corners. Marlon Humphrey, Brandon Stevens now is out there. I think they need another guy opposite of Brandon Stevens. So hopefully you can have Marlon Humphrey in the nickel playing close to the line of scrimmage. I think Quinyon Mitchell could certainly be that guy. It's a lot of guys I feel like could fit here. Josh Newton, Kamari Lassiter, but I think Quinyon Mitchell, it's time to start showing him some love as a potential first round prospect. So that's it. That's that mock draft. We'll take a final look over it here. Only one trade. I haven't been making trades really outside the number 1 pick because I'm struggling to find some spots for it. I mean, I don't really know who else would trade up in any of these situations, but obviously I think a team will. We won't know until draft night, of course. But yeah, that's gonna be it, man, for this video. I hope y'all enjoyed. Got a lot of videos on the way. I've been on my shit lately, not gonna lie, as far as planning and I think getting everything together. Got community posts up every day, polls and shit. Hope y'all are enjoying it, man. I've been having fun uploading more and working more on this YouTube shit. So I hope y'all enjoy. Leave a like if you did, subscribe if you're new, and thanks for watching. Peace.
It's out the motherfucking pack. Right out the niggas don't know how to act.